Welcome, welcome, everybody. Welcome back to the Secret Formula of Femininity podcast. And
Mhm.
I am always excited when I have a guest. And this guest, like, I've been really, really anticipating having her and having this discussion. So let me introduce Dr. Kathleen Walls. She is amazing. She is a licensed psychologist, so she's a clinician, she's an author, she's an educator, a professor. She educates um, women in our community around everything wellness, well being, mental health, relationship health, which is something that we're going to talk about. And
Mhm.
has been doing this for decades. So she definitely knows what she's doing, but she is with the current times. Let me tell you, we have been in touch, via email and so forth, but it wasn't until um, Dr. Walls, when you did the commencement speech, I think it was 2 years ago at
Yes.
Chestnut College. And that's when I got to see your full personality. So it's not just the book smarts, but it's the ability to connect with people and just like get that message across and give people exactly what they need to hear. So you have that
Yes.
talent and that gift. So I'm so excited to have you here. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And thank you for having me. I love these types of conversations. I have a good pastor friend of mine. His name is Pastor Carlton McCarter, and he's referred to as the Keep It Real pastor. And so he's like, Doc, you always keep it real. And that's
Yeah.
the thing. We have to keep it real because in our profession, being clinicians, so many times people are almost like scared to connect with us because they're so afraid we're analyzing them
Yeah.
all the time, right? And it's like, let me tell you from the door, I'm not analyzing you. Like, I'm not at work. Now, if we want to talk, we can talk, but we can talk about all types of things. And this is what's great about our profession because we get a chance to talk to so many different people about life, right? And really help people
Yeah.
navigate this journey of life. So I'm super excited to be here and to be a resource for your community.
Yes, thank you so much. And I think you're so right. Like, we want to break down these walls and these barriers. And that's one of the reasons why I really wanted to hone in and like really focus on femininity for
Mhm.
women.
Mhm.
It's something we all think about or have somehow in the back of our minds. And I wanted to bring it to the forefront and talk about all of the issues that impact women on their journey to well-being towards femininity and just
Yes.
feeling good about themselves. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And even as you're saying that, I'm thinking about, right, and what it means to be the fullness of femininity. Like,
Yeah.
what is that? Because we've all been raised differently. We all have different ideas of what femininity means from being glamorous. Now there's this whole soft life
Mhm.
movement, right? What does that mean? What is feminine energy? How do you visualize it? How do you look to represent it in the
Yes.
world, right?
Yes.
What makes you comfortable? What makes you uncomfortable? Looking at all of those different aspects. I grew up very much being considered a tomboy. And
Mhm.
so, but not in the sense of let me totally embrace all masculine energy because I was still very much feminine. So, what does that
Mhm.
balance look like as a young girl who is very athletic, can play sports better than most of the boys, right? But
Yes.
not desiring to be a boy. So
Yes.
what does that look like? Going on my prom and wearing the prom dress, but wanting to have my basketball sneakers on, right?
Yes. I love it.
And then as a grown woman, as a professional, but also as a wife, what is that? What does this look like in my evolvement of a person and in my evolvement as a person who identifies as a woman, as a black woman, and as feminine? What does
Mm.
this look like for me?
Wow, you said a word. Yes, that it kind of goes into what we decided to talk about today, which I think is so timely because
Mhm.
there's so much chit chat and chitter chatter with social media around relationships. And I see a lot of negativity. I see a lot of pessimism. And I think, we'll get into it. I think that comes from a place of hurt. So we do
Yes.
have a lot of people giving out advice.
Mm,
And we wanted to
mm.
we wanted to flip the script and give a more like well-rounded, like
Yes.
real, keeping it real,
Yes.
but not this negative view of relationships. And
That's
so
right.
I want to talk to you about like what are the ingredients of a successful marriage? And
Mm,
not just
mm.
relationship, but like I'm talking marriage,
That's right.
right?
That's right.
Marriage. What are like what does it take? Because we see divorces, we see people saying, I'm never getting married. We see the men saying it, the women, but yet marriage is also a goal for a lot of people.
Yes, it is.
It's still I don't think marriage is ever gonna go away.
Mm-mm. Not at all. I
Yeah.
think it's breaking things down, which is something again we're trained to do. We look at every piece of it, right? And we also sit with it. So even just as we're looking at the ingredients of a successful marriage, there are three key words in there that we have to look at. We have to look at ingredients, right?
Mm,
So
mhm,
when we think of ingredients, automatically we think of a recipe, we think of food, right? And when we think of food, that is something that nourishes us and it provides
mhm,
us the vitamins, the minerals, the nutrients that we need in order to live, right? In order to thrive. So these are the ingredients that we need. We need to make sure we have things that are fueling us. I always say that we should be fantastic by ourselves, but we should be fabulous together.
yes.
All right. So,
Yes.
what are those ingredients that are going to make us fabulous together? We need to take time and look at it. And just like with any meal, what your taste buds are, what your relationship needs are going to be slightly different than what yours may be. All right.
Mhm,
So, for instance, as I was going through my dating life and discovering what it was that I honestly needed versus what I wanted, what I found out, what I personally needed was someone who was supportive, which is
mm.
different than someone who's encouraging. And I didn't know
Ooh,
that at
now
first. Okay.
break that down.
So I was dating someone prior to meeting my husband who was very encouraging. So I would give him ideas like, I need to do a commercial. This first great example. Webcams started being on computers. Well, at that point, you had to add the webcam on. This is why I start to show my age, right? You had to add the webcam on and I wanted to do a commercial for my first book, The Greatest Soul Journey, and upload it onto YouTube and so forth. And so I did it, and then I had the guy take a look at it, and he was like, "It's good." He was like, "But you need like more lighting, and like the angle is off." And that was the feedback he gave me, which was helpful, and it was fine. When I met my husband, I needed to do a presentation. And I was like, oh man, I said, I have this PowerPoint presentation to do. I don't know if they have a projector. And he was like, no problem. He brought me the projector. And then I showed him the commercial that had been done on YouTube. He said, oh, he said, your lighting is off and so forth. He said, don't worry about it. He brought me lighting. He brought me because he's a photographer. So now he's setting up the space and everything and I was like, now this is support to, and I
Like
was like,
this versus this.
oh, the other one was encouraging. He's like,
Uh,
you can do it. He gave me feedback, but this person took it to the next level. It was
yeah.
feedback and direction and supplies and and the and just kept going and going. And he's like, now make sure you're looking at the camera, make sure they're not seeing the whites of your eyes. I notice when you're thinking, you're looking up. See, come take a look at how it was what I needed.
Yes. He went full, like the way I read that,
Yes.
he was fully in his masculine because he was doing. He wasn't just like, oh, a cheerleader. He was
Right.
making his
Yes.
action where his mouth was.
That's right. Right. And he was providing in the way that he could. And I know a lot of times the masculine energy is known as the provider, right? He was providing in the way in which he could provide. And it was in the way that I needed, not just wanted, but it was in the way that I needed. Okay. So we have to look at what are those ingredients. As I've talked to friends and clients, sometimes you need compassion. That's that's the element that you need in your partnership. All right. That's the other thing. I needed a partner.
Mm.
And he's all about partnership and teaming. And as I mentioned, I'm a former athlete. So I'm used to working with teams and
Yes.
in teams. All right. I'm also a sibling. So I'm used to working again in a family team and getting clear on roles. Right. So we got to look at that. The other thing, as you can tell, I can talk, I'm a communicator. I need someone who I'm able to communicate with. And one of the things that he said to me when we first started dating was, he said, we have to make sure that we check in with each other every quarter. He said, and see and assess our relationship. Now, he is not a therapist at all.
Uh-huh.
But he said to me, we have to assess our relationship every season. He said, because energetically we change each season. And we need to make sure that we are in alignment even when we make these changes. Go ahead. I know you got something to say to that.
No, my mind, I'm just like the way you just broke it down, because a lot, I mean, you just said a mouthful. A lot of the discourse or the discussion that we hear now is about money and looks, right?
Mhm.
Like he needs to provide the bag. I need to provide the looks. This is what I'm seeing on a superficial level.
Mhm.
No understanding of your unique needs, right? And you just broke down the like it can look different. It
Mhm.
can be, some people might love encouragement, but some people might need more action, more
Yeah.
support, more
Yeah.
provision, right?
Yeah.
Providing. And then you said something else about um, being in a unit, right? Like I think a lot of people fail to realize that a marriage is a unit, it's a team.
Yes.
So whether you have experience playing on a team or not, you need to get up to date, because
Yeah.
you cease to move only as an individual. And if
Yeah.
you not let go of some of that selfishness, then I think you're not going to be successful. And I get it. You should never lose yourself completely. We're not talking about being codependent and not having a sense of self and boundaries. But like, if you cannot think about what it means to put someone else's needs before yours at
Mm.
times, please do not embark. That's my view. Like, do not step your foot in the borders of marriage.
You said, read the sign. It says, do not enter. Do
Yes.
not go. Do not pass go. Do not pass the chapel, the
Go
wedding
back.
hall. Don't do it. Right.
Go back to dating or whatever it
That's
was.
right. That's right.
Because this unit, this partnership, this commitment that's when you let go of the I and it becomes a we.
Baby, honey. Right. That's when that M turns upside down from that me to
Yeah,
we.
that's what it
That's
is.
right. And don't get it twisted because you'll be back. Right.
Yes.
But it is a balance. It is a balance because
Mhm.
sometimes there is the me part. And that's the other thing, too. Your partner is in relationship with you. So you got to be clear on who you are. When you start switching up who you are, then they don't know who they're in relationship with. So it is bringing your full self and then bringing their full self. And then as you grow together, you're having new life experiences as a unit. You're discovering who you are and how you navigate these experiences. All right. So, with that, I, Kathleen, have a response to this life event. My husband, Edmund, has a response to this life event. And then we collectively have a response to this life event. And this is where communication becomes very key because this is how I see it. And he's saying this is how he sees it. And then we determine how we're going to see it.
And you have to, what I hear in that is a main ingredient is respect.
Yeah.
Because as you mentioned, we're two fully formed adults, people, different people. So if we can acknowledge that we're going to have differences and that we have to respect those differences, I think that is going to go a long way versus because I hear a lot of people expecting their partner to see things the way they see things.
So this is how we got through that. You can tell I'm a teacher. I got my whiteboard right back here, right? So can we have a whiteboard moment? Is that all right?
Okay. Show the whole diagram, the communication matrix.
Yes. So one night we were trying to figure something out and we were sitting at the dining room table and he was explaining his side and I was explaining my side and he wasn't understanding me and I wasn't understanding him. And being a communications expert, I wasn't understanding why I wasn't understanding, right? And so we're trying to figure all of this out. And then he stops me and he says to me, stop. He said, you have to remember there's 360 degrees to every situation. Well, I stopped dead in my tracks and then I go very visual. So I'm like, okay, I whip out my laptop. I need you to get your laptop because he also does graphic design. I need you to create what I see in my head. And so, in short form, 360 degrees, right, is a circle. And the situation that we're dealing with is right here in the center. He is going to come from his angle and look at that situation from his angle. His angle consists of all his life experiences, his background, and so forth. And I'm going to come at this situation from my angle. Same thing, all of my stuff. This creates a great opportunity for us to learn more about each other, how we've come to the conclusions that we've come to. So instead of him trying to force me to see it his way and me trying to force him to see it my way, it creates an opportunity for us to understand each other in a fuller sense. It also creates, right? It also creates an opportunity for us to see what's getting in the way of us seeing things. All right. So when we recognize that this is the focus, this right here in the center is the focus, and this is another opportunity for us to team together.
So it doesn't have to be seen as this bad thing. It's actually a great thing for you all to see things differently because it's an opportunity to connect more and learn more, expand your view.
Yes, you got it.
Yes.
And so, right. And so now, so that's it. So this is that, what you just said is an opportunity to change our perspective, change the way we see confrontation and conflict. And what happens is so many times people want to avoid conflict because they see it as destroying the relationship. We're going to break up. It triggers abandonment issues, it triggers past traumas. Guess what? These are things that your partner needs to know about,
Mm.
right?
Mhm.
So I realized that I got upset. I realized that I hesitated to tell you this because I thought you were going to get mad at me. And now I'm realizing that it's the 8-year-old me that is still dealing with whatever confrontation I didn't resolve with my
Yes.
mother, with my father. It is the 16-year-old me that is still dealing with how my first boyfriend, girlfriend treated me, right? It's rising up now in this union with a partner who's here to support you and help you grow. And then now you're able to say, this is what I need. I need you to tell me you're not going anywhere. I need
Mhm.
you to tell me that you love me. I need
Yeah.
you to tell me that you're going to help me work through this and grow through this. I don't know how long I'm going to need you to do it, but are you willing to provide me with that?
Dr. Walls, like you just, the thing that really stands out about what you said is the vulnerability that is required to connect.
Yes.
Because for so many of us, even saying those words, they rolled off your tongue so smoothly and sweetly. But I can imagine that even stating your needs like that, especially like you said, if you've been abandoned or if you've
Yeah.
had unresolved, betrayals and relationship,
Traumas. Yeah.
that is such a scary thing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
how did you all agree ahead of time? Like, okay, you will hear from me what I need, or like how did you
So here's the thing, and he and I will share this. My husband was married 2 times before me. All
hmm
right. So he said, when we sat down and I was working on myself, and I think you notice as a clinician, we're always working on ourselves, right? So I was working on myself. And when he came into my life, I said to him, these are the 4 things that I am currently working on within myself. These are the 4 things that may impact our relationship because it's raw, right? The wounds are open, and I'm telling you, I'm tending to them. So I'm tender right now, right?
mm
Not tender, tender, right? So
Yeah.
I'm tender right now. So I'm going to continue to work in these areas. If you want to be a part of my life, are you willing to work on them with me
Mm-hmm.
and not be pushed away from them? You have a choice. I'm not going to pretend like I'm not dealing with them because that becomes a manipulation, right? So, are you able to deal with this stuff? Are you willing to deal with this stuff? And he told me what he told me then is the same thing he tell me to this day. I ain't going nowhere.
So if you want to get rid of me, then look, choose somebody else.
To somebody else. This ain't it. And he sat and he looked at me in awe and he said, I've been married before and I've been in relationships before. And he said, no one has ever just come and said, here it is. This
Mm-hmm.
is what I'm working on. This is what we're dealing with. And he was like, I'm here. All
Mm-hmm.
right. So now during our dating process, I saw where, and thank God I have a wonderful wisdom circle of friends who, when I would start complaining about things that he was doing, they would sit there and scratch their head and say, we're not seeing it, which
Yes.
then made me realize this was my self sabotaging. This was
Mm-hmm.
my stuff coming up,
Say
right?
it.
Which I had prepped him for that this stuff because I was still discovering
Mhm.
how my stuff was impacting my relationship.
So the power of community, that's also what I heard, because
Mm-hmm.
when you decide to commit to someone in marriage, I think the community matters just as much. Now, you could have a community of women and of people who are ready to side with you and go to war against your spouse anytime you're mad.
That's
And
right.
I would say, if that is the community you're around, please get a new village,
Hello.
because like, I'm not that friend. If you
No,
call me and tell me what your man is doing, I am never going to speak against him. I'm going to help you process what you're
that's right.
experiencing, because I
That's
know
right.
that 9 times out of 10, it's our emotions in the moment or our triggers or we're in a heightened state that's making us have a certain perspective.
That's
And
right.
I sure do not want to add fuel to the fire to somebody getting divorced,
That's
because
right.
I'm sitting there cheering you on because you guys had an argument. So it sounds like your village, your community was like, not that we're not talking about accepting, somebody hits you and you're
Right.
just like, girl,
Nothing unhealthy. Right.
we're talking about like what it takes to understand that relationships are going to go have ups and downs, and those
Yes.
conflicts in that diagram
Yes.
you showed us,
Yes.
that if you don't have people who understand that, they're going to be just your friends are triggered too. So if you say
Yes.
something, then their abandonment fears, and they're like,
Baby. Yes. And their protection, right?
mhm,
Their
mhm,
protection gets in. Nobody wants your friend to be, if you're a real friend, nobody wants your friend to be
yes,
hurt. Nobody wants your friend to be sad. And so, or taken advantage of, or so forth. So they're listening for all of that. And it's like, do I need to go into protection mode? And
mhm.
so, as my friends know, people go with this statement, it's not my statement. I tell people, I'm not your ride or die. I'm your ride and live.
Ooh, say it again. We
Okay. I
try to
am
live.
I am your ride and live. I do not ascribe to ride and die. That's not it. Right? So I need to make sure that my relationships are living. This goes back to what we were saying about ingredients, right? We make sure that the ingredients are allowing us to live. The relationship is giving us the nutrients that we need in order to thrive. And
Mm,
so communication is key. Confrontation is key. And that's even confronting yourself.
yes.
All right. And being willing to change. So many times people are so married to the version of who they were. See, that's who they need to divorce.
Get to go to divorce court for that, huh?
Exactly. Right.
Uh-huh.
So you need to get clear again on what it is that you honestly need in a partner, right? And then helping your partner be the partner that you need, as well as being the partner that that person needs.
Uh-huh.
And
Uh-huh.
and so patience is also a key ingredient.
Uh-huh. So
Patience.
what did we miss so for you?
Go
So
for it.
from the beginning, it was like not being afraid of conflict, being
Mm-hmm.
able to face your own stuff,
Mm-hmm.
not being selfish,
Mm-hmm.
um, communication, and the last thing you just said,
Patience.
yes,
Patience.
patience. Hmm. And
Because,
what about? Go ahead. Go ahead.
oh, I was just saying, you're learning yourself and you're learning this other person, right? And here's the
Mhm.
thing, you're learning how they process information, you're learning how they communicate, you're learning how they respond in stressful situations, you're learning how they deal with grief and loss. You're learning all of these. And as you're going through life, you're dealing with this. You're dealing with, if someone has children and grandchildren, you're dealing with births. People change jobs. You're dealing with that. You're dealing with friendship, right? And so patience is needed as you're discovering how, again, you respond in these situations, your partner responds in these situations, and how you respond as a unit in these situations. So patience is key.
So that leads to what is the role of forgiveness? Because
Ooh.
when counseling couples,
Mm-hmm.
one thing that comes up, if we think of forgiveness, is all about infidelity. That like people
Mm.
think only betrayal that can
Mm-hmm.
happen or the only hurt that can happen in a marriage. It is not. There are so many other ways that we may feel hurt, betrayed,
Yes.
whether it's intentional.
Yes.
And if we're not able to forgive does not, in my opinion, mean sweep under the rug,
No, it
not
does
address.
not.
But if we're holding on to resentment, like
Yeah.
that can
Yeah.
destroy something.
So,
So
for,
how have you seen forgiveness play out?
yeah, so forgiveness is big. So one of the things, again, my husband and I, we were very upfront when we started dating and talking about things that worked for us and things that didn't work for us. And look, he said, if I do something wrong, I have no problem apologizing for it. So, a conversation to have with people while you're dating, or even if at this point you're married, how do you respond to when you've done something to hurt me? Are you able to apologize for it? Are you clear enough on what it is that you're apologizing for? Because I don't need somebody like 5 year olds. It's like, I'm sorry. And it's like, well, what are you sorry for? I don't know. My mom told me to tell you I'm sorry. Right?
Exactly.
No, I don't accept that. That's not an apology because, right, you're going to do it again if that's the case. And so
Yes.
here's the other thing with patience, people are in the process of changing. And many
Mhm.
times it doesn't happen overnight. And I will give you a perfect example. I was used to moving through the world by myself. So I
Mhm.
go out, I go shopping, go to the grocery store, come in whenever I want to, not call, not check in, and so forth. And as my partner, that used to upset him very much. He's like, if something were to happen, I don't know where you are. You say you're going here. Next thing I know, you've gone to 5 other stores. You've gone to a girlfriend's house. You've gone to see your parents. He's like, I wouldn't know how to help you. He said it's
Mm.
not about controlling your movement. He said it's just the consideration and being aware. Well, I can't tell you how many times this man said this to me, and I would start and stop. I'd send him a text. He's like, just send me a text message. I'd send him a text message. I'd give him a phone call, and then I'd fall back into my old ways. And then he would complain about it, and I would start again. And it took me a long time, like years, to
Okay.
finally get into the rhythm of making sure I connect. The other
Mhm.
thing that I did was I told my people, and they would be like, girl, you better text that man and let
Let
him
me
know,
where you are.
let him know where you are. So now he had to keep forgiving me because I would come to him and ask, I apologize. I know I did it again. I
Mhm.
didn't mean to do it. And he knew sincerely I didn't mean to do it. Right. But it was frustrating. So that forgiveness, he saw my active accountability, right? I took
Mhm.
ownership. He also saw my active attempts to do better until I finally found my rhythm. And I still wear banana shoes and slip sometimes, right?
Okay.
But we,
I like
we
that
work
term.
on it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We work on it. And it's the same with him. There are things that he does. And he asks for forgiveness and he says he takes ownership, he takes accountability, and then it takes practice. All right.
Well,
And so,
what I hear. Oh, go ahead.
yeah, I was going to say,
So.
and that's important to remember too, is that people are practicing new skills in a union. Many times people think the moment the marriage happens, they think the marriage is magic and
Yeah,
everything is now fixed and nothing. No, the marriage, that's when the work continues.
yeah. That's when it starts. You just, people have the Disney view, like you kissed the frog and he became a prince, and
Yes,
that's that, right?
yes,
And you became a princess, and it's happily ever after.
yes. Because
But
if
the
that was the
it
case,
comes,
I'd kiss him again so he could turn back into a frog and hop away sometimes. So let's
luckily, it's not that quick, right? Like you can't, and when you talk about like changing behaviors, I have found like it's the little things, right? And sometimes it's easy to dismiss
Mhm.
something that might seem little or small to us
Yes,
that is important to them. And I think
yes,
like what I have found in my marriage is like when I really slow down and pause and really consider that no matter how, small it is to me,
yes,
as you said, with your diagram back
yes,
there, from his perspective,
yes,
this is important. And until I take it as that at that level of importance, I'm going to keep forgetting or whatever it
that's right.
is. And so it really takes like a shift inside of me, inside of
Yes,
you as the person who's like, well, why? Who cares? Like it's easy to be like, well, who cares? If I text or whatever the small
right,
thing is.
right.
But you have to like it's a sign. I'm big on respect, and
Yes,
I'm big on respect. I know that to be for a lot of men an important love language.
that's right.
And
Yeah,
so when if someone if especially if your husband says this, if he indicates this is what makes him feel respected,
yes.
then I'm like, this is big, no
This
matter
is
how
a big
small it
one.
seems.
And
Yeah.
so that's
Yeah.
it. That's a tremendous conversation to have. Respect is a big word for me too, because everybody has a different definition for it.
Hmm.
And what behaviors equal respect. And so that's a key conversation that needs to happen so that, to your point, you understand what your partner is looking for. Because a lot of times people feel disrespected, but you don't even know that you've disrespected them because you don't have a clear understanding of what respecting them looks like.
Yes, yes. And if you haven't seen it modeled,
Yes.
it's you're like grasping for straws in the dark.
Yep.
You're assuming. I think we make a lot of assumptions. So it's back to what you said, like your whole point about communication. Now let's break that down because I know a lot of times we think communication is just I say this and you say that. But I think it for me, communication involves delivery. It
Mhm.
involves serving things outside of the words. So
Mhm.
like I sometimes, men and women, but I notice a lot of times men can shut down and not
Yes.
tell you, hey, I'm shutting down.
Yes.
And if you're not observing that part of the communication, you could be talking, but the
Mhm.
message isn't getting through.
Yes. And you know what? As you're saying that, what we have to realize is that life is different from TV. And what I mean by right, this is not for those who remember the Truman Show, right? This is not the Truman Show because people will start to shut down and then it goes to commercial and then it's resolved on the other
Uh-huh.
end, right? That's TV because the show can only last that 30 minutes.
It is.
In right in real life, that person shuts down. So you see the decline, as you're saying, right? Be observant. You see the decline happening, to which point that person needs time to process. So you might not be able to finish that argument, that discussion, then you may have to wait another day so that person can get their words, that person can regulate their feelings, and then you can have a productive conversation.
Mm. Now, what that you said a word because what level I'm thinking the level of self control it takes.
Hmm.
And you know
Hmm.
what? We might not be able to finish this right now
Yep.
because
Yep.
a lot of us we get that sharp tongue or whatever it is that
Oh
irks.
yeah.
We might be triggered. We feel
Oh
like
yeah.
it, if we don't get it out right now, then we've lost the opportunity forever.
Yes. And that's not true, right? And that's the other thing, and I'm glad that you said it, right? Because this little thing right here, this tongue, right, can be you can build
It's
something up or you can slice
mm,
it right down. And
yes.
so we have to learn self control. And again, relationships allow us to learn more about ourselves. We learn what our strengths are, positive, negative, neutral. We learn what our areas of growth are. And what makes a
Yeah.
marriage slightly different than just dating someone or being in a long term relationship is that there is more intertwining that takes place. So you can't get out as easily. This
Yeah.
is someone who you have said, you know what, I'm willing to learn about life with this person more so than a boyfriend or girlfriend or a situationship, right?
Mhm.
You're learning from those spaces as well. But this person, you saying this, you know what, this person is going to be a good life teacher and partner with me. We can go through this together as life mates. All right. Um, until you make a new choice, right? And then, of course, things can be dissolved and so forth. But still, that marriage piece, it does. It adds an extra level of intensity to it.
So it's intensity, right? What you're saying, which provides the opportunity for more growth. Because
Yes.
I'm imagining like our human nature is to get out of discomfort.
Yes.
And if we could just walk away from that marriage without the judge saying, did you separate for 6 months or whatever it is you have to do, then I think the divorce rate would be a lot higher. So I think
Yeah.
the fact that it's like that on purpose,
Yes.
so we can use the tough times to grow.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right. So we literally, right, we got to slow our roll, right? And roll is the roll out, right? So
Uh-huh.
we, we
So
slow we slow our rollout and we get a chance to take inventory and see where could we do something different, right? The
Mhm.
relationship, one of the things that I have a lot of my couples do is create a marital mission statement.
Mhm.
And so then therefore that is what is greater than you two individuals, right?
Uh-huh.
This is what we're working towards. The same way a business, right? You have your mission, your vision, and your values. Those are the same things that you need to have within a relationship and be very clear about that. And just like with companies, we look at the mission and go, are you on mission? Right? Or is this still the mission that you want to, and here comes the trigger word, is this still the mission that you want to submit to?
Oh, yes. Say it because that word is getting a lot of women up. Get what is it? Your britches in a bunch,
Yes,
and
yes,
people are ready to throw fists when they hear that word.
yes.
But if you're married, you are going to submit to something. Let me
So
tell you.
I'm gonna give you this, and this lesson changed my life. And I wish I remember who said it to give, and it was a male, to give him credit. I read this in an article back in the 90s. And it was a male from Atlanta who wrote it. And I'm telling you, it changed my whole life when he said it. So he talked about the word submission. And breaking it down, right? We know that the word sub means to come under. And we know that mission is a vision or a goal, right?
Mhm.
So, or a vision. So when you submit, you are submitting to, you are coming under a vision or a goal. He said, what happens is some of y'all want to get married, and you, as a male or as a leading partner, you don't have a vision or a goal. So what you asking people to submit to? So one, you wrong for asking somebody to submit to nothing. And two, whoever is agreeing to it, you can't get mad that you ain't being led nowhere because y'all ain't made it clear.
And you didn't pick a leader.
And so now, why knowing thyself is so important, because in a partnership, I got to know what my mission is, right? What's my life mission? What's my life purpose? And then I come into partnership with someone, and is he or she clear on their life mission and their life purpose? And then we see the equally yoked part. So now we can submit to the mission. We're both coming under this, and we are both making sure we stay on mission.
Stay on mission. Okay.
Okay.
Hear that, ladies. Stay on the mission.
Stay
Yes.
on the mission. And now, if you want to bring spirituality into it, for those who believe in God, whatever name you choose to use for God, then you're in alignment with God's mission for your life. Both of you individually, you've already submitted to that. Now you partnered with someone and you both have submitted to that. And so God is who you ultimately are submitting to, and God's will for your life, whatever the assignment is that is on both of your lives.
And I love that you are like reframing the word, because even from an Islamic perspective, which is my religious background, submission is a beautiful word. Actually, the root of the word Islam is connected to submission, which also allows peace.
Also allows what?
And for peace and contentment. Like you're not against what is good for you, you're going to be in a state of peace. But I think a lot of us are fighting against something just to be fighting against it. And like you said, maybe it's lack of clarity, lack of belief in the mission, lack of having a mission, or feeling like you're following behind someone who isn't qualified to lead. And so it creates all of this like discontent. But if we really tap back in, submission is a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Because something higher, so there's something outside of you that you find worthy, that is taking you somewhere.
You got it.
That you can't go by yourself.
That's it. That's it. Our job is done. That's it.
Yeah.
And that's it, right? It is establishing a new relationship with these words and taking the time to clarify again, what are they triggering, dealing with that honestly, confronting it, right? Instead of avoiding it. To your point, there is no sweeping it behind you or sweeping it under a rug. You're actually going to deal with it, confront it, work through it. All right. Because you have to go to it, and then you got to work through it to grow from it.
Say it again. You got to go
to it to work through it to grow from it.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Brilliant.
I'm gonna let people see that. I think that is such a great that's such a great point for us to wrap up on, because I think it like captures all the points that we made. But
Yeah.
what the goal of marriage is, it's not just your happiness in the every single moment. It's not just, you know, all of these things that we see on TV, but it's an
Mhm.
opportunity to really grow and connect, which
Yeah.
I believe, like, even if we look at Maslow's hierarchy, right?
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
when you get to self-actualization, when you get to the top part, like,
Yep.
why, what better opportunity to help you actualize as a person, but also together
Yeah.
than
Yeah.
thing we call marriage.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And like you said, if we look at the, the hierarchy of needs, right? Going through those steps and growing up that pyramid together, it makes the journey, so much more. And again, that's with friends, family, whoever, and if you choose a partner and you choose marriage, it's an opportunity to grow together for sure.
Yes. Okay, I'm putting this down because I want people to see it. My fingers are not working as fast, but you know what? Let the people see.
Yes.
So, Dr. Walls, please tell the people how they can follow you, reach you, how they can make benefit from any resources. I know you're an author, but if you have anything you can share about how people can reach you and how they can get more of you,
Yes,
let us know.
yes. Well, thank you. Thank you for, first of all, thank you for having me. I loved our conversation today. I look forward to watching the replay and growing from our conversation. Let's- People, they can follow me on social media at Ask Dr. Walls, like right there in my name, AskDrWalls. So Ask Dr. Walls on Instagram, Ask Dr. Walls on TikTok, Ask Dr. Walls on Facebook. My website is askdrwalls.com. And then on YouTube, it's at Ask Dr. Walls, but it has 525 at the end of it. All
Okay.
right. So definitely check that out. My website has links to everything. So
Okay.
askdrwalls.com. It has the links to my books. So I mentioned The Greatest Soul Journey was my first book, which is a workbook style journal. And the greatest stands for God restores excellence, activates talents, encourages spiritual transformation. And
Hmm.
so it gives you food for thought, and then it gives you space in the book. I ask you questions because I'm a processor. And
Yes.
so, therefore, you can answer those questions in there. And what's so great about this book is that it is constantly evolving as you evolve. So you can go back in a couple years and look at it and go, would I answer that the same, or where have I grown from there? My second book is Live by the Spirit, which is food for thought, just life events that have happened that I've shared where I gained insights. And then I create space for you to capture your insights, because we know, even as you and I were talking, it triggered thoughts inside of us, and we need to be able to capture those thoughts in the moment so we can grow from them. And then what I refer to as my adult children's books.
Ooh,
Uh,
I
and these are The Adventures of Froggy T and Bunny, a hip hop tale. So
okay.
they are all lyrical in nature. So part of the adventure is discovering the lyrical nature of the books. And they're a frog and they're a bunny, so they both hop, and they're hip characters. And so the reunion was the first book, which talks about how they were reunited after being separated for a little while. And it's really about faith and friendship. And then the second book, sorry, that's out of order, was Bunny Gets Bullied. And that's her first experience with being bullied. And it shows her physical reactions, her cognitive, her mental thoughts, her emotional responses, how she seeks help from family and friends, and how she then empowers herself in the process. The next one is Feeling Feelings, and this one is about how do you manage all the feelings that you experience. So Froggy T wakes up in a bad mood. His bad mood impacts Bunny. Now she's worried about him and she's worried about herself. And so, what do you do with all of that, right? How do you navigate? And so, it gives tips and tools and techniques on how to do that. And then you are getting hot off the press because I haven't even made the announcement yet that this
Oh,
one just came out. You got an exclusive, girl.
okay, yeah. Which one is this now? Let me let
This
the people.
This one is Froggy, Foo, and Mungu. And this one talks about Froggy T's response to when Bunny got bullied and what he went through. And it takes him on a journey down memory lane and then how his pathway to changing his reputation and his existence as a bully. So, oh yeah. And here, let me show you also what's also unique about, say it again.
Is that out now?
Yeah, it's out now. So yes, it is on Amazon. Oh, Mungu is Mungoo.
Okay, all right.
Yep. So it is, and all of my books at the end, they all have, and you can see the pictures are absolutely gorgeous. My
Beautiful.
illustration team is from St. Lucia. And
Ooh.
so it's a global initiative. At the end of all my books, there's a glossary. So I'm a former elementary, middle school teacher. So I'm always pushing literacy and vocabulary. I'm also a former adult literacy teacher. And then also, there are activities at the end of the books as well, and processing questions for the reader, but also for conversation starters. So they're great for children. I've done book reads for children as young as 5 all the way up. My executive leaders, some of them have them on their desks at work because they use the strategies and the skills that are in there. I put life skills in here. I put coping strategies in here. And all my books are also available as ebooks and also on Vimeo with voiceovers. So,
And so all of that they can see at your website.
yep, you can click get to everything off of my website. Yes. Yes.
Okay.
I
So
love it.
we got the new release
Fresh
Froggy
off.
Goo
Yes.
on time, but also go to www.askdrwalls.com so you
You
can see
got it.
the whole blog.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
Yes.
thank you so much.
You're
This is
welcome.
I loved this conversation because I think this is bringing more reality. And being real doesn't mean being pessimistic and negative. I think that's the
That's right.
connotation. Like, keep
Yeah.
real is going to be something you're breaking someone down. But I feel like everything that you said is building women up and building people up to
Yes.
know what's normal
Yes.
in some marriage.
Yes.
So
Fact.
thank you so much
You're
from
welcome.
and just personal experience. I totally agree. Been married for 13 years, and it's been a journey that
Yes.
I would not trade in for the world.
Yes. Yes. Thank you. Well, I have to do my signature here because I do it all the time. I shake my tambourine for you.
Yes.
I had such a great time. Thank you.
Okay. So we might have to have a part 2, right? Like we got to think of something, but we will have
Yes.
you back. Definitely.
I'm here for it. Thanks so much.
Okay. All right.
All right.
Take care.
Bye, everyone. Bye.